Hi, in this screencast we're going to talk about conditional statements. I created a new file called condition.php and then we're going to write about conditional statements. Conditional statements in any programming language is actually a block of code executed when a certain condition is satisfied. So I'm going to start my program with the delimiters I talked about that every PHP program needs to have. It should be enclosed within these two delimiters for the application server or the web server to actually understand that this is PHP code and then run it and then compile it into an HTML file. Now, PHP supports the same type of conditional statements as JavaScript. It has the if statement, okay? It has the if else statement, and then finally it has the switch statement. These are the three conditional statements supported by PHP. Let's start with a simple if statement. In order to understand the concepts of PHP, of the conditional statements, we are going to simulate a username and password scenario. Let's suppose that I have a variable called $username, and let's say I have the value set to Muhammad, and let's say I have another variable called password and I have the value set to 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. That's a default password. Okay, so let's say I have these two things. I have a username and I have a password. Now we use an if statement to compare whether the username is correct or not, and then we display a message. So I'm going to write an if statement, which is an if keyword, open and closing brackets, and then I write the condition over here. Now the condition states like, so username double equal to, let's say, Muhammad. So that means if my username is equal to Muhammad, then I would echo out welcome. Okay, otherwise I want to, okay, that's just that, because I'm just talking about the if statement. So I say if the condition statement inside and then do this. Now as you know that these are logical operators, we can have double equal to, the different type of logical operators, less than equal to, greater than equal to, not equal to. Not usually is represented by your, say for example, if I want to say not equal to Muhammad, I can say this, which is an exclamation point. Okay, so if it's equal, not equal, and this. A unique thing about PHP is whenever you're comparing strings, we can, instead of using double equal, we can actually use a 3 equal sign. 3 equal actually translates to saying exactly equal to. So when you're comparing strings, what you need to mention is that I want this two strings to be exactly equal. Okay, exactly equal. We usually use it for strings, and whenever you're comparing numbers, you can actually use the double equal sign. Okay, so again, so it's safer side to say whenever you want to say username equal to Muhammad, which is actually 3 equal signs. It says exactly equal to the string Muhammad. Okay, so I'm going to just save this. I'm going to go back to my test page, and I named my PHP file as condition.php. I'm going to say welcome because now my name is Muhammad. Okay, so this is what happened over here. Suppose I want to write an if and else statement. So if my username is Muhammad, it happened this way. Now suppose sometimes it may not be the same. Suppose if it's not there, I want to provide an alternate condition, and that's the reason why I use an else statement. So how do you write else? Just say else, and then open close bracket, and then you say echo you are not allowed here. Okay, so that's some basic. Now let's change this Muhammad to, let's say, a capital M. See, although it's Muhammad, but I want to say capital M. So I'm going to go back, and this time I'm going to say refresh. So you are not allowed here because it's case sensitive. I cannot accept a capital M over here. Now, if you look at the realistic scenario, I want to show you that the reason why I put a capital over here is to talk about a very important thing. See, we all know the if and else statement. It's boring because we already saw that. We already know how it works. It's exactly similar to what we did in JavaScript, and there is nothing new about it. They are exactly the same. The syntax is exactly the same. So let's concentrate on something different. Usernames, usually when you type in a username, it's not case sensitive. Let's say, for example, I have an email address, and my email address is, let's say, misbahuddin@kfu.edu.sa. Suppose I forget to close my caps lock and I type everything inside capital letters. Irrespective of that, it should accept it. My server should actually say you are welcome, because it doesn't matter if my caps is on or off, because it's the data is not case sensitive. I mean, it should be allowed. But the case is when you're writing the program, it's not the case. If when you're writing the program, actually caps is different from a small case. Now in that case, like for example, let's do that. Let's see how it can be done over here in this case. Let's do that over here, and suppose I want to say any case of Muhammad, it should allow me to log in, irrespective of it's a capital or a small case. So how should I do that over here is simple. I showed you earlier some of the functions that are provided by PHP, remember? So one of those was looking at strings in PHP, and we saw that we have a function, a very good function in PHP called string to lower. So what does this function do is convert everything to lowercase. So in that case, if my input is not case sensitive, I can convert my input into lowercase and then actually compare it with lowercase, or I can compare everything to uppercase and I compare it to every. So whatever the user enters, capital, small, or whatever he needs, I can still make sure that it's not case sensitive. So let's see how to use that. I'm going to show you string to upper. It's a function, so it's going to give me string to upper and the string inside the converted string inside the bracket. So I'm just going to go back over here to my program, and in that case I'm going to say string to lower, and I want to use the string username as my input, and then do that. Okay, so I'm going to convert everything, whatever the user enters, I'm going to convert that into a lowercase and compare it with this, because this is all lowercase. You see, this is all lowercase. So I'm going to save this now. I'm going to run it again. See, now it says welcome. So no matter what the user enters, I'm still going to allow him to do that. So similarly, for example, even if I capitalize some other word in the middle, it doesn't matter, because for me the input is not case sensitive, so I want to do it this way. So it's again still welcome, unless and until the input is wrong, it still does that. So it's a good trick to actually use it whenever you want to have usernames which are not case sensitive. Okay, so this is your if and else. What I want to go over here is, if you want to continue with, you can have a chain of if and else statements, like so if else, then you can still continue with else. You can also say else. Let's say we have different usernames, right? So I'm going to say else if, and again I can write my other condition. Let's say string to lower, again $user name, say equal to Ahmed. In this case, I'm going to again type in echo welcome Ahmed. Okay, and then I'm going to close this and then say else, and then open this bracket and do that. So this is a chain. I can build a chain of if else and go on and on. Okay, so if I just go back over here and change this to Ahmed, save this, and then run this again, say you're not allowed here. Okay, what happened? Just string to upper username equal to Ahmed. Yeah. Okay, I said string to upper and I'm comparing it with smaller ones. I can convert everything to capital over here, or change this to string to lower, so it will work either way. Okay, good. Now it says welcome Ahmed, right? So this is how we need to do that. So we can have a chain of else, if else conditions, whatever you feel comfortable with. Another thing that I want to show is an if else statement, but this time I'm going to use a complex condition. A complex condition. A complex condition means, over here I was just comparing it with one value. So that means I'm just using a simple conditional statement. So if you want to combine multiple conditional statements together, we use complex conditionals. We use logical operators. And these logical operators are and, or, and not. We have 3 logical operators, and let's see how we can use that. So if I say that the username and password has to match together, just not the username, but both username and password, I can say if string to lower, say $username equal to Muhammad. I have to say smaller, so I have to be careful when I'm comparing them. It's Muhammad. And to combine two different ones, I will use the AND keyword. So I'm going to say AND the password. That means $password. See, the password is not case sensitive, so I cannot use string to lower and string to upper. It has to be exactly. So if it's capital, it has to be capital. If it's small, it has to be small. If it's numbers, it has to be numbers. So I'm going to say equal, because it's a string, because I'm using quotations over there. So I'm using again triple equal, and then I'm comparing it 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and then that's. And then I'm going to again say echo welcome you are logged in as Muhammad, something to differentiate between them. Okay, so a complex condition means whenever I want to use a logical operator. So if you have multiple conditions, you can always combine those conditions using logical operators. We have and, or, if we can use or we can actually use the symbols that we have, double and or double or. So they can be used interchangeably, so it doesn't matter what you use. In this case, again, let me go back and let's refresh it. It should give me 2 messages saying I didn't change the username, sorry. I have to go back to the top, and this time I have to change the username to Muhammad. So see, it says welcome for the first loop that we discussed for if and else, and then again it says welcome, you are logged in as Muhammad. This is because my username and password are both a match, and that's what happens. So this is how you can combine complex condition statements by using and keyword, or any other logical operators, and or the symbolic ones, such as an ampersand sign or a straight line for or statements. Okay, the third statement provided to you for conditional running conditions in PHP is the switch statement. Again, similar to whatever you did in JavaScript, and also it accepts strings similar to JavaScript, and not similar to Java, where a switch statement doesn't accept a string input. So over here the syntax is also the same, exactly the same. So I'm going to say, if I want to convert this block of code that I wrote using if else, you see it's too long, so I don't want to do that. So to avoid that, I can actually use something like this, something using a switch statement. So I'm going to say switch. Okay, I'm going to say switch, and $username is the place I want to switch to, but I want to switch it using the string to lower, right? String to lower, and in that case I write all my cases over here, similar to what we did earlier in JavaScript. It's the same. We use case. If it's a string, we specify it using quotations. I'm going to say Muhammad over here, put a colon, and then write the piece of code that I need to write. So I'm going to say welcome Mr. Muhammad. Okay, and then to end a case I use the break keyword. Another case I will say Ahmed, and then I would write welcome Mr. Ahmed, and then I will again write break, and I can use a default condition. A default condition means whenever none of the conditions are satisfied, I will say you are not allowed here. Okay, exactly what we did earlier. We don't need the break at the end because it's the last one, so it's up to you. If you need it, if you don't want to put it, you can put it, but it's exactly the same, so you don't need to actually use it. So I'm going to save this again. So let's go back and refresh our page. You see, welcome, you're logged in as Muhammad. Why didn't my switch statement execute? Did I save it? Yeah. Okay, for some reason, okay, I'm not using echo, sorry. My mistake. I have to use echo to display it, otherwise it will not work. I'm just like displaying the message. Okay, I have to use echo to actually run it. So that now it should work. Let's go back. See, welcome was the first one. Then we had welcome, you are logged in as Muhammad, because we are using if and else complex conditionals, and this is the last one, which is welcome Mr. Muhammad. Okay, so in that case, if I want to change it, I can simply just go ahead and change this to Ahmed. Okay, and then let's see how it changes. It says welcome Ahmed and welcome Mr. Ahmed. This is from the switch statement. Okay, similarly, I can actually change it to something else, which is, let's say, Ahmed 123, and then you can see, that it will go on to the default case, which is you're not allowed here. Okay, so these are the conditional statements available to us in PHP. You have your if and else statement. You can actually combine a chain of if else statements, but if you are comparing just one value and you want to combine them, you can actually prefer using the switch statement, because the good thing about switch statements in PHP or even in JavaScript is that they accept string inputs. Okay, and then we have your if and else condition, or if any conditional statements using complex conditional. Whenever you want to have more than one conditional statements, you can combine those conditional statements using your logical operators, which is and or. Okay, so I hope this is clear on conditionals. Now let's go and see loops. I'm going to create a new file and call this file loop.php. I'm going to do the same thing that I did. Every PHP code has to be written between these delimiters. Now, the loop supported by PHP is exactly the same as the loop supported by JavaScript, but there is a small syntax difference with one of them. Let's see the basic ones. Let's see the regular ones. The first one is a for loop statement. I'm going to write all of them first, and then we start filling the blanks. And then we have the do, let's say the while loop statement, and then we have a do while loop statement. Okay, I'm going to save this. Let's start with the first one. Suppose I want to use the for loop. I'm going to say for, you have a bracket. Now you have to repeat the number of times you want to repeat this loop, but you have to have an initialization condition. $I equal to 1, $I is less than 10, $I plus plus. Same syntax I have been working with in JavaScript, exactly the same. We go on inside. Let's say I want to echo I love PHP. Okay, and then that's it. Yeah, I'm going to go back and then change my program to loop.php, because that's what I'm working on right now. See, I love PHP, and it repeats till 9 times because I said less than 10. So we all understand the basics. I'm just going to repeat it for your basic comprehension. That says we have a for loop, and whenever you're working with any statement, whenever you're working with loops, you have to remember that you have to define three important things: the initial value, the conditional statement, and then the update statement. The difference between all these three is where you define these three statements. In a for loop, you define all of them together inside the for as parameters for your for command. The first one is the initial one, the center one is the condition that you want to stop your loop on, and then you have to update. The difference between a for loop and a while loop is that how these three things are defined. In a while loop, you define the condition before the loop itself. So I'm going to say $j equal to 1. So this is my initialization, and then I use the loop to write my condition. Let's say while, and then say $j is less than 10, and then I have my looping statements, and then I can write my code, whatever code that I want to repeat. Echo I really love PHP. That's my statement, and then I'll just update it inside the loop. Updating is done inside the loop, so I'm going to say $j plus plus. So see, the same thing, I'm doing the same thing, but the only difference between these two loops is where you define all these three things. Every loop has to have these three things: initialization, condition, and update. So initialization is usually done outside, condition is done inside, and the condition is done inside the function call, and then update is done inside the loop itself. So I'm going to save this, and then let's go back and see what it looks like. See, it continues from here and then goes until over here. Okay, next I'm going to talk about do while loops. Do while loops is almost similar to your while loop. The only difference is the loop executes at least once. Because the condition is, see over here in the while loop, my condition is before the beginning of it. It's like a gate. It doesn't allow you to pass inside unless and until this condition is satisfied, unless and until j is less than 10. As soon as j becomes equal to 10, it stops executing the loop. Okay, but the do while is different. Let's see, the way of defining this important variables is the same. Let's say $k equal to 1. You define it outside the loop, then you start the loop called do. Okay, sorry, I did something. So I say do, and then I start the loop, and then the condition of while is written at the end like this, and then inside this I write my condition statements, which is $k is less than 10. The update is inside the loop, which is $k plus plus, and then I can just understand what I'm going to say. Okay, so initial condition outside, condition initial value outside, conditional statements here, and then update inside the loop. So it also follows the same thing as we did for the while loop. The only difference over here is that my while loop is no longer the gate in the beginning. It becomes the gate at the end. So it's like, think of it as like let's say you are going to an island and you are charged for going inside at the gate when you enter the island or you enter the place. So this is the while loop. A do while is an opposite thing, where you are allowed to enter, but when you are leaving, they charge you for it. Yeah, whenever you are leaving, you are charged for it. So this is the difference between these two. So the thing is, over here, suppose you don't have money, and you want to go to the place, to the park or something. If you're using the while loop, you will not be allowed to enter because you don't have money. They will stop you, check you for money in the beginning, ask you for money. You check your pockets, you don't have money, or you don't have your ID, they'll not allow you inside. The difference in a do while loop is they allow you inside. They accept you because they don't check your IDs in the beginning. That's the do statement. When you come inside, you do whatever you like. Once you are leaving, they catch you at the gate and say, where is your ID, or where is your money that you need to pay at the end of the gate. Okay, so that's the difference. So over here, at least at least you are allowed once inside. So even if the condition is wrong, they will allow you once inside. Let's create the wrong condition and see what happens. What I'm going to do is over here, let's first run this case for the success one. We didn't see that, so I'm just going to run it. So you can see that it actually ran for the number of times we requested it to. Now, suppose that I say k equal to 1 and then say the condition is actually k should be greater than 10. Okay, greater than 10. So that means k should always be greater than 10 to repeat the loop. So that means the condition is now not satisfied. But you will see that at least once that I see the message, I really love PHP, and then it stops it. I'm going to run this. You see, I just see it once only, and then it stops it, because when it comes to the exit gate, it stops it saying the condition is not satisfied. So you're not going to loop again. You just reject it. So this is the basic scenario. So whenever you are writing loops, remember an important concept. You need to have three things when you are writing a loop. You have your initial condition, you have your your initial value, and then you have your condition statement, and then you have your update statement. You have to have these three, otherwise it doesn't make any sense. You have to have an initial value to start something. You have to define a condition so that the loop stops. It doesn't run forever. And then you need to update the loop so that you know it doesn't run forever. It has to stop sometime. Okay, so the way you place all these three is the difference between these three loops. We have a for loop, we have a while loop, and we have a do while loop based on the placement of these things. That should make it simple enough. There is another loop. You remember in JavaScript, if you have gone through JavaScript before actually looking at this screencast, in JavaScript, we had two types of writing a for loop. The first for loop was writing the same way as we did over here. Another for loop was using for some keyword in the array, in a given array. Over here, in PHP, we also have the same loop, but with a different name. We don't use the same name as for. We use another name which is called for each. We have something called for each. So we're not going to discuss it right now, but we're going to discuss it once we talk about arrays. So that's going to come in the next screencast. So I hope this is much clearer to you. For now, we covered about conditions and loops statements in PHP. Okay.